Hi, everyone, and welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you so much for joining me today on my vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. All right, so Wish. It had a big opening. A lot of fanfare marketing was put into advertising for this movie, and it was a box office bomb. It just cratered, and we have seen this consistently from Disney over the past 2 years. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Star Wars Solo, a Star Wars movie, was a failure a few years ago. We've had Lightyear, the Marvels, just everything Disney seems to put in the box office, it seems to be destroyed. Disney Plus subscriptions are at an all-time low, and no matter how you frame it, even the biggest of shills have to admit that something is going wrong with this company. And I'm not the first to point this out, but it's obviously that the company has gone woke. That old saying, get woke, go broke, with maybe Nike being the exception to this. It's just a fact. And they're not the only studio. I mean, as Midnight's Edge pointed out in their video about Wish, they pointed out that they're not the only company suffering from this. We see this across the board with Warner Brothers Discovery, with Paramount, and a handful of others, that it has started to just fall apart for Disney. The brand is dead. Now, according to That Part Place and their writer John Trent, Disney is blaming you and me for this. Now, I would like to point out something. The very first movie that I ever saw in theaters was The Lion King, and it blew me away. Ever since then, even going back that far from when that movie came out, I have been in love with cinema and with animation. Everyone knows that I love animation as a cinematic art style. Everyone knows that I love filmmaking as a narrative telling format. It's just how I roll. And of course, I'm a writer. I've written my own books. Shameless plug there. You can definitely check them out at my website, StudioJakeMedia.com. But I just want to point out, Disney was the brand. I don't remember a Disney movie that my parents didn't take me and my little sister to. We consistently went to Disney shows. Now, there was a brief time in sort of the early 2000s where we only saw Pixar films, but consistently we saw Disney movies in theaters, and even some of the bad ones, or some that people consider bad but weren't, like Treasure Planet or The Emperor's New Groove. I know some old school boomer and Gen X fans don't like those movies. Whatever, I think they're fantastic. Heck, even some of the older ones that came out before I was born that are considered bad, like The Sword and the Stone or The Black Cauldron, I actually thought both of those movies were good. And that's just how I roll. I can be a contrarian sometime. And when it came to Disney, originally, I was excited when they bought Lucasfilm, when they bought Pixar, when they bought Marvel, not in that order, obviously, but I was excited because the Disney brand had so much power, and they've just overstayed their welcome as a brand. And it's really sad to watch. And, I don't wish that on them, but let's be fair here. We have to admit that they're caving to this diversity and inclusion nonsense. Diversity is fine, but when you try to make it a part of the narrative instead of being part of the film as sort of a subtext, when you make it what makes the plot move forward, it becomes boring really quickly, right? And that's just how it is. And it's really sad and that Disney has gone that route. It's no wonder that there's an attempt at a hostile takeover by some people. And it's really interesting because Wish was supposed to be their 100-year anniversary film. Originally Wish was supposed to be 2D, but it ended up being 3D. It has gotten such bad reviews. Some people have said that the animation and the songwriting feels like it was AI generated. And people have pointed out how many of the characters turn into characters from other movies, like it tries to bring some of their films together. They try to tie Wish to Snow White. They try to tie Wish to Zootopia. Now, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to review the film, but I don't know if I will see it. But it's just a fact that it was a box office bomb. And like I said, Disney blames you for that. They said that, oh, consumer trends, how they perceive how we're getting involved with social issues, how they are reacting in a post-COVID world. Let me tell you something. Oppenheimer, Barbie, the Super Mario Brothers, and Napoleon have been killing it at the box office. Five Nights at Freddy. There is a desire to go to the theater because it's a family experience. Everyone wants it. So let me say, with people like Midnight's Edge and Dread Roberts and Orange Hat Reviews, so many amazing YouTubers like them have been doing videos on this. So what do I bring at the table? I'm sort of in a unique position because I am a marketer. It's what I do professionally. So as a marketer, looking at how Disney is handling this sort of thing, what is different? Well, I narrow it down to three things. Number one, they chased away all their talent. Now, they were doing this even before they went woke. I remember when Enchanted came out. Prior to that, they had fired all of their 2D animators and even had forced them to train their replacements while holding their severance packages hostage. I don't know how any attorney general let them get away with that. That is corporate blackmail. And not only that, but with the Me Too movement, they used it to get rid of problematic people. So like John Lasseter, he was one of the co-founders of Pixar. He's the person who kept Pixar going. They fired him because of a very minor infraction, social infraction. He wasn't even accused of a crime, but they fired him in the Me Too fervor. Well, a bunch of his people went over to him when he joined another studio. And so what did they do? They had to bring in new animators who were lackluster. They were from studios that they had gotten with different purchases they had made and weren't familiar with the culture of Pixar. So they went from having these amazing writers and animators to chasing all of them out or firing them and having to bring in these mediocre storytellers who aren't familiar with the brands, or maybe it's on the peripheral, or they spent too much time in college and think that they got an education. Number two, they listen to the social media mob. And this is something that people don't understand. In the early days of social media, and I'm talking about as far back as when MySpace was still a thing, social media impressions did sort of matter because this was before people figured out how to make bots and, do trolling and stuff like that. However, these corporate people didn't realize that the times have changed, and now social media mobs, they can rally together by one person creating dozens, sometimes hundreds of bots. This is why Zack Snyder's stuff looks more popular than it is, because of all these fake trolls that one or two of his fans are creating, and they all rally together. They all say the same things. You can even look, I remember when I was being attacked and the whole Snyder Cut thing was happening, you can see that it was one person just saying the same thing over and over again. That's why when they would ratio me, I was like, oh, wow, your bots did a good job, I guess, whatever. It's kind of like that. And that's what's happening with Disney. So all of these, perverts, all of these weirdos, all of these people who never had to hear their parents say no in their lives, they get online and they create all these troll accounts and they create a bunch of false impressions, and it gins up in the algorithm. But instead of realizing that and listening to their real fans, their real audience saying, hey, we don't like this, we're even showing you with our wallets, they decide to get high fives from these social media mobs, sort of the Tumblr crowd that, no one really pays attention anymore in real life. But in the Hollywood bubble, it changes. Number three, the myth of the modern audience. And most of the modern audience are those people behind the social media mob, right? The myth of the modern audience, it's the movie critics. And by the way, there are good movie critics that even when I disagree with them, I know they're coming at it from a place of sincerity. So like Christian Toto or Tyler Himmel or Lou Aguilar or Armand White, I know even if I disagree with them about a movie, and you can ask Christian Toto, I've had him on my show to talk about our disagreements a couple of times. They are reviewing movies out of a place of sincerity, but most of the mainstream critics who are hired by the corporate press. I say mainstream in lackadaisical term. They think they are the audience for these movies. And then there's a second layer to that, which is the social media mob, right? So Disney has decided to cater to those two things. Like I said, Strange Worlds, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, there's Star Wars, Disney Plus, TV shows, and everything in between, Marvel stuff. They have collapsed, and it's even gotten so bad that the shill media that used to uplift them, that part of the modern audience is gone. They're starting to even challenge Disney on their nonsense a little bit. And now the social media mob, they're still excited. Like, they're all these stan accounts who are trying to make like Wanda did nothing wrong in WandaVision, or they're trying to say, oh, Strange Worlds is a work of artistic value and all of this. Those stan accounts, they can't afford to go to the movies. They were just never told no by mommy and daddy. And there's the ones who celebrate Batman being a Punisher knockoff in the Snyder universe, and then watching him cry about his mommy with Superman. Those are those kinds of people who cheer that on, right? It's just they don't actually have any money to go to the theaters. So the folks like me who would love to go and just support Marvel. I remember when Marvel was getting hate by some of my colleagues. I was defending Marvel, and I'm talking phase 3, right? When phase 4 came along, I can't defend it anymore. I would love to defend the MCU. I was there from the beginning. I didn't see Iron Man in theaters. I saw Incredible Hulk in theaters and Iron Man 2. And from there, I saw every film at least on, if not the opening night, at least on the opening weekend. That is how much I loved. Now I don't even bother. I just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus and c'est la vie. It's how it goes. You've lost your main audience chasing this fictional modern audience, and now all your movies are bombing. If the DEI crowd, if the woke crowd was really the new mainstream, every single one of these movies would be a hit, or at least break even at the box office. That's not happening. Now, there's a bonus aspect to this, and it kind of connects to all three, and that's the doubling down and blaming the audience. So despite a year of flops, now I know some of these movies were planned sometimes 3 years ago. And so that's why they couldn't be stopped, or it would cost more to cancel them instead of releasing them. So instead of doing that, they blame the audience. They say, oh, it was just a bunch of, right-wing trolls that caused the movie to fail. It was a bunch of, straight white men who didn't want to see Brie Larson succeed as Carol Danvers, and so on and so forth. It's just a bunch of nonsense, not based in reality. And we see this a lot. And I just think that if this trend continues, the woke Disney brand has killed Mickey Mouse. There's no hope for it unless they turn the ship around. Now, I'm rooting for a hostile takeover. I hope that Nelson Peltz comes along. He maybe brings John Lasseter back to Pixar, although now he's doing really well at another company, is my understanding. He may not want to come back, but hopefully he'll come back. He'll bring back heavy hitters. He'll promote Jon Favreau, get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, all that. The smaller asterisk to this is, people were saying, oh, Dave Filoni's promotion to chief creative officer, that's proof that there was no civil war in Lucasfilm. Yes, there was a civil war at Lucasfilm. You can tell this by the difference in Andor and The Mandalorian season 1 and 2. It was an outright challenge to Obi-Wan or the Book of Boba Fett. But the Kathleen Kennedy side won, not the OG Star Wars crowd. They won, and that's part of that doubling down. So, like I said, I would love to see Disney turn around. It's a beloved American institution. But if it doesn't, let it burn. And Disney has no one to blame for that but themselves. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to StudioJake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.